Stats are one of the most complicated mechanics in Rise of Kingdoms. Which is the best? Attack? Defense? Health? How do base stats come in? We've all been wondering, and we have not had an expert to help us with this in a long time. But today I'm joined by Bilegt to walk us all through it. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name's Shappy. I am a sponsored Rise of Kingdoms content creator, and today I am joined by the one and only Bilegt. Say hello, my friend.
Oh, Shappy, thank you so much for having me today. And hello, everybody, my name is Bilegt, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you on, man. You know, this, as I told you earlier, this is a topic I've wanted to make a video on in a long time. But, you know, as a content creator, we have to recognize where our strengths and where our weaknesses are. And while I love making content for the gross majority of people, I'm not as technical as I wish I could be. And I think your videos, your content is very technical, and it really gets into the depths of things that I think normal people don't always grasp. And so I really wanted to have you on just to walk people through how all this stuff works. But who are you? To give people a little bit of insight before we jump into this stuff.
Okay, thank you so much, man. My name is Bilegt again, and I started playing Rise of Kingdoms around 3.5 years ago. And I recently opened up a YouTube channel where I am currently doing a content focusing on the data and mathematical aspect of the game, kind of like diving real deep into the numbers and to help players to make correct decision and investment. And like you said, today I am here to shed some light on the damage formula, how the stats, for example, HP, defense, and attack stat work, and also provide some interesting numbers. So I'm like super hyped right now.
I love it. Well, that's your channel. I've got it up. If anyone wants to, go check him out. He's got some great content. The fact that he's only at 2.9K subscribers is ridiculous. We got to get those numbers up. That'll be linked in the description, and there will be a link on the top right for you to go check that out now. But without further ado, let's jump into the formula. You want to walk us through what we're seeing here?
Today, I wanted to talk about, the damage formula and give everybody a really good, like a base of understanding what the damage formula is. And also, Shappy and I, discussing about the importance of HP and defense and attack stat and what are their roles in terms of the damage formula, so that it's going to be easier for us for everybody to understand what to prioritize and just have that general understanding and knowledge. So here I have the damage formula, and this damage formula right here is developed by Wiki Gaming. I took this damage formula from Wiki Gaming. This specific damage formula right here is quite easy to explain and understand, so I chose this. Of course, the later on, for example, if you guys can see here, the RK simulator developer, the Speco, developed this damage formula a little bit further and made it a little bit more mature. And this damage formula has all these like scalars, troop count, troop advantage, a lot more stuff in the damage formula. But the Wiki Gaming version is quite a bit too easier to explain, and it's the same thing. Okay, so in order to explain the Wiki Gaming's damage formula, I also made it more simpler for the people to understand. So the damage formula basically goes like the damage you do is multiplication of your number of troops and attack stats, and divided by enemy defense stat and HP stat multiplication. And there's some troop capacity thingy or multiplier at the back end.
That's awesome. So I do feel like there tends to be this predisposition from everyone I've spoken to say, hey, the attack stat sucks, right? Attack is just not the stat
Mhm.
to go with. And I've said it before too. I do tell people the attack stat sucks. I don't really know why. How exactly do these stats come into play when we talk about like field combat, right? Is
Mhm.
attack actually terrible?
So the attack stat is not actually terrible, but it actually depends on what other stat you are sacrificing in order to gain the attack stat. For example, latest we got the 20% infantry attack zenith skin, and for people who doesn't have any infantry city skin, of course the 20% zenith attack skin is gonna be tremendous upgrade. If you calculate it as the damage bonus or boost to the damage formula, the 20% attack is actually translating roughly around like 7 to like 8% damage boost. So it's boost. So your damage output is quite literally increasing by 7 or 8%, right?
No
So that
way.
is yes. So if you don't have any like infantry city skin, that 20% attack is like a huge upgrade. So yeah, attack stat is it depends on which stat you are sacrificing. Um, but like if you are sacrificing like 20% attack to 20% HP stat, it's obviously gonna be less impactful to the damage formula. But getting more attack is not as bad as it seems. So there's also like a common understanding. Okay, so the HP stat, right? Everybody is talking about HP stat is important, and attack stat is not less important.
Yeah.
But you know, we do not really understand why is that the case. So I can explain that why HP stat is mostly being important with this damage formula. Okay,
Please
you want me
do.
to just go ahead?
Yeah, no, I this is stuff I've been wondering for a while cuz like the big question I always ask is should I be going for like defense or HP, especially on infantry, right? Cuz infantry has all that equipment that really favors the defense. But like one of the big questions I've had to face is with the Eternal Knights pants. Made a whole video on like best budget equipment set. And I said you should go for Kyrorax Humility because that's going to give you health instead of Eternal Knight, which is going to give you defense. And everyone was like, no, 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 Shappy, you're wrong. I didn't understand if I was wrong or not. So this is helpful. Please tell me more.
If we take a look into the damage formula, this is the damage that you are doing, right? And the enemy march, the only way for enemy march, I mean, not the only way, but how the defense and HP stats take into action in terms of mitigating these damages. If you guys can see how the defense and HP stat work is that they divide the whole entire number, and that's how they mitigate your damage, right? So let's say for example, here we have a defense and here we have HP, and this is enemy defense, right? Enemy defense and enemies HP, and basically uh, depending on how much their defense and HP have, your damage is gonna get reduced, right? Your overall damage. So let's say you have like, this is just an example, you have 80 defense and 20 HP. Okay, this is just an example. And if you take a look into the damage formula, it's a multiplication of these two. So if you multiply these two, we're kind of like getting 1,600 in the dividing section, right? So here, um, let's say you have like a magical equipment, okay? Let's imagine we have one magical equipment, and that magical equipment is giving us either 10% defense or 10% HP. So let's first choose defense. So our defense is now 90, and we still have the 20% HP, right? And if you do the same calculation here, now the multiplication is increased to 1,800. So this is gonna decrease the damage that we do even more, right? Enemy is mitigating our damage with this. However, Now let's take an example of we chose the 10% HP stat. So we still have a 80% defense, but now instead of having 20 HP, we have 30 HP. So let's see how this is gonna work. Now, as you guys can see, the multiplication is now more number. So what's happening here is that the total number of stat is 110 here, and it's still 110 here. But in order to get the most amount of number is when the two multiplying number is close to each other, right? So total we have 110 stat, right? So let's imagine that we have 55 defense and 55 HP. So we still have 110 stats total, but let's say just magically we divided those stats into equal amount defense and HP, right? And if we multiply this again, the multiplication, the number is even more. So what I wanted to show you that because of the damage formula like this and enemy defense and HP, on the other hand, when enemy is doing damage to you, this is gonna be your defense and HP stat, right? So the balance of HP and defense stat is really important when it comes to the mitigating enemy damage, which is why it is good idea to have the defense and HP stat almost equal. So and here comes the point why HP is important. So here you have the absolute base stat, right? So if you are a tier 5 player, all the technology like researched, this is the base stat you are looking at. And if we see here, the HP stat is already lower than defense. This is
Right.
the base stat, right? Which is why if we like multiply these two,
So that's why you want HP up, because you want to get the HP
yes,
number closer to defense.
yes, absolutely correct. So there's like 42% of deficiency of HP. So this is gonna be same as, regardless of troops, infantry are gonna have the same stats, archer gonna have the same base. This is absolutely base stat, and also cavalry, right? So you on all troop types, even siege units, you have 42% deficiency in HP stats. So, which is why HP stat, if you prioritize HP stat, the defense and HP value will come close to each other, and in return, it's going to increase the number that we just previously explained here. So this is why HP stat, prioritizing HP stat is important. And it's also, just like you said, it's very important for infantry as well. And we can talk about a little bit into the equipment section a little bit later, but for example, cavalry, we have the same base stat, but because the cavalry equipment is giving us so many HP stat, if we see here, the HP and defense stat is almost gets balanced out.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah.
only happens when, yeah, it only happens for cavalry.
Is that why
So
Cavs are
if
the
you are
best unit type?
it's hard to tell, man. It's I think it comes down to the like commander pairings and the current meta. But in terms of equipment, yes, surely cavalry has the best equipment choices, just because they are giving you the most amount of HP percentage stat that is balancing out these two stats.
This is so helpful. Oh my God. Okay. So for archers have mainly attack equipment, right? And
Hmm.
when we look at them, their base attack stat is already pretty good. And we've already established that because of the way the multipliers work, the attack stat mainly goes off of number of troops remaining. Now, that also has problems because number of troops remaining will constantly change throughout the battle, whereas the
Yeah.
defense and health stat probably won't, right?
Yes.
So that attack multiplier, if you're at half your unit, I mean, your archers are really going to start suffering.
Yes. So basically, what the what we're doing with the equipment, optimization with the equipment, optimization with the armament, stats and everything, it is allowing us, no matter how much, troop count is left or not, you are always doing absolute maximum amount of damage or absolute best trade potential when it comes to the damage formula, no matter what number of troops you're remaining, right? Let's say if you have only 1,000 troops remaining, if you manage and optimize your gear, you're still gonna do a little bit more than unoptimized gear and armament stats,
Right.
for example.
Now,
Yes.
one of the things that I've been curious about, and I'm sure everyone else is too, is iconic equipment, right? When you go to iconic something, it says that you're adding a base stat value versus a flat value percentage. How does that differ?
So every civilization has, depending on which troop type it is, the special units has a base stats. For example, let's take a look into the infantry. So non-civilization infantry attack stat has for infantry it's 220 attack, 212 defense, and 216 HP. And if we take a look into the France has a little bit more base attack, same defense, but has a huge amount of base HP. So what this is allowing us is that because we are, having all these equipments percentage, it's basically, if you take a look into the formula right here, we are increasing, for example, this 227 base stat by 59%, right? And then the
Oh, so it's a percentage multiplier rather than a base increase.
yes,
That's
correct.
the difference. Is the equipment and armaments and all that add to a multiplier rather than
Yes,
when you do a base stat improvement, that base stat is then getting multiplied by your equipment.
yes, that's correct. And the iconic base stat is basically you are adding the base iconic stat to this HP number. For example, I already did here. So here you have special talented gear, and you are gaining around 16 more iconic stat, right? This is every gear is a special talent. So it's you are total maximum you are gaining 16 more base stat. So um, your base stat will increase thanks to the iconic, and then after that, the equipment percentage increase comes to play. So which means iconicing the equipment, having that extra more base stat is even gonna more multiply the percentage stats you're getting. It's
Oh,
kind of like
wow.
acts like a multiplier.
That is so helpful. I have this up right now and I'm looking at it, and it makes sense now why you would intentionally choose France, but also why the Iconic has such a big impact on your final number for your HP stat.
Yes. So it's like previously there iconic equipment. It's you just mentioned the Karok humility, right?
Yeah,
Uh, Previously, when the Awaken system wasn't here, yes, the Karok humility was the best choice over the Eternal Night. But right now, I mean, Karok humility is still very kind of like a entry level equipment. It's very cheap. It's very easy to craft. But Eternal Night, when you iconic Eternal Night, you are gaining base stats thanks to the Awaken system. So,
right.
which is why the Eternal Night has been kind of like buffed thanks to the Awaken system. But so did the other like leadership pants and boots
Right.
because they are giving you the HP stat, right? HP percentage stat. And then now you have more like base stat thanks to the iconic. So that means the end result that you are getting is even more. So you are becoming even more tanky, and those extra HP stats that you are getting from the leadership pants and boots is being even more effective thanks to your increasing your base stats with iconic, right?
That's so helpful. So I've got a curveball. I know I didn't give you forewarning about this one, but I'm just thinking about it. When we talk about things like basic attack versus counterattack, how do these stats come into play?
So everything, like every damage you do is goes through this damage factor.
Okay.
So for me, initially it was really confusing for me to understand why it says damage factor of 200, right? But later on, as I do the, my study and learn the damage formula, I realized that the damage factor of 200 is just the base number. So your basic attack does 200 damage factor. And
Okay.
then your counterattack is also does 200 damage factor. Oops, not 2000. That would be way too overpowered, but 200. And then here we have like a skill damage, right? Active
Right.
skill damage. Let's say you are doing 2000 skill damage, right? So basically what this means that when you are casting your 2000 damage factor of skill, you are just doing 10x basic attack damage.
Oh, that's what that means when we do
Yes.
this.
So in one turn, yes. In one turn, you are just doing 10 basic attack worth of damage with your skill damage, right?
Oh, that's
So yeah,
interesting.
this is the easiest way to explain the uh, damage factor. And as we know, the attack stat and the HP defense will calculate the final number of what this 200 damage factor means. So it's in reality, when you put in all the numbers, like for example, your basic attack could be 365, like a white number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means your counter attack is also going to be same 365 white numbers. And because now you are doing 10 times the amount of damage with the 2000 damage factor skill damage, you're basically doing this much skill damage during that turn.
That's so interesting. So, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
kind
can
of like
actually
it's
kind of decrease the skill damage taken by having higher enemy health, right? So if an enemy has higher health,
yes,
they're actually taking less skill damage.
correct. Correct. Yeah. So if let's say if enemy has like optimized gear, this is example, right? This is just an example. If enemy has optimized gear, you are start gonna be doing less damage. So it's gonna be like, for example, 350 white damage, and then your counter attack is also gonna be same. These two are gonna be exactly the same damage, right? And also your skill damage is gonna get hit less. Again, the skill damage, if it's 2000 damage factor, it's 10 times the basic attack.
Now, how does something like smite come in here though?
Smite also acts like it's just the same. The only difference between skill damage, smite damage, and we also have whoops, wrong stuff. Combo damage is that we do have commanders that has like for example skill damage reduction, right?
Right.
So if commander has a skill damage reduction, this 3,500 number is gonna get like reduced to like maybe like 3,350. But this is just again example number, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So skill damage reduction is going to reduce this, but skill damage reduction is not gonna reduce the smite damage or combat damage. So it's just different types of damage, but the damage formula behind this is everything is same. Everything is calculated the same, but it's just different type of damage. Everything at the back end is really intricately balanced, in my opinion.
That's awesome. This is so helpful. Perhaps we'll have a sequel episode where we talk more about combo damage, smite damage, all that good stuff. And we've been going for a while, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of a break. But thank you so much, Bilekt. This has been so informational, and this is the kind of stuff that the community really, really needs. Like, there's just such a gap here, and the content that you've been pumping out is really spectacular. So once again, guys, if you haven't already, Go check out his channel. It's linked on the top right. It'll be linked right above my head in just a sec. Bilegt, do you have anything else you want to say to the channel before I let you go?
I can actually give one really good, interesting number as well in terms of the civilization. Like, if the how much better is like special civilization as compared to the normal civilization?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let me give you this number before we go. So here I've calculated, as you guys can see, all the different types of equipments and also regarding the different types of civilization. And just to give you guys a really quick number, the civilization actually plays huge, like tremendous amount of impact to the damage formula. For example, let's take a look into this type of particular equipment, right? This is mathematically the best equipment for infantry. Of course, the 4-set bonus for infantry with the march speed is also a very viable option, but this is the impacting damage formula the most. And if we take a look into this particular equipment, the very top that we see here is non-civilization. And here we see, let me just do this, compare these two. So non-civilization, let's compare non-civilization versus France, right? So if you are like an infantry player, of course you are running like France or Rome or Greece, right? But the difference of non-civilization unit of special civilization unit is around like 7 or 8%. So this is like tremendous amount of number.
Wow.
So yeah, so it means that whatever open field march combination that you are playing, it is smart to choose a civilization that is covering the most amount of your troop types, right? For me, for example, I play 2 infantry march on open field, so I always run France,
Right.
and it's benefiting the most. And also, France is giving us a really nice healing speed.
Right. And
Uh,
all health. All health is the
yes,
bonus. And that makes so much sense
yes.
because I'm thinking about the cavalry civs. And even if you were to pick the cavalry civ with health, because of the calculation we did earlier, the health bonus is not as impactful for your cavalry because your equipment covers your gaps. Whereas the
Mhm,
health bonus for infantry is a huge deal.
mhm.
Wow. My,
Yes,
my
that's
mind is
correct.
blown.
Yeah, I mean, the more we dive deep into this kind of stuff, it's really nice to understand the actual core of the game, the how the damage formula works and everything. So if we understand it like the absolute core and base of the game, we can kind of make correct decisions and investment. Like for example, Rise of Kingdoms can be really kind of like a punishing game sometimes because it yeah, it takes a lot of efforts, time, and energy to craft one equipment, right? And if you like craft the wrong equipment or if you do a wrong investment, the punishment is there. You're losing time and you are not really being optimized that much. So, doing this kind of stuff is like really helpful, I find.
Amazing. Yeah, no, this is super cool. Thank you so much for coming on, Bilget. This is very, very cool. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the channel. Once again, guys, go check out his channel. If you love this kind of stuff, you want to get geeky with it, Bilegt is your guy. Thank you, guys. Chappy out.